thank you all very much for coming to the SMB Cloud Summit. We really appreciate you being here today. I recognize many of you, and I really appreciate the ongoing interest that you have in and commitment that you have to the process of expanding knowledge and understanding of cloud and other advanced technologies in Ontario and across Canada and ultimately around the world to the benefit of all of us as employees, as workers, and as citizens. My name is Michael O'Neill. I'm with Inside AAS, and we have worked for quite a long time on getting this event together in partnership with the Ontario government, Data Center Dynamics, and our sponsors and advisors. Mary, you here somewhere? Mary? No? Okay. When my colleagues come in, I'm going to ask them to stand up and recognize them because they have been working quite a lot on this. But I would like to thank the folks who helped us to put this event together, starting with the Government of Ontario, who we will have welcome you themselves in just a moment. Carbon 60, Longview, Cloud.ca, Cologix, TechSavvy, TA Networks, Fortinet, and Tintri. We'd like to thank all of you very much. And thank you. If we could just acknowledge them. Because without them, we wouldn't be able to do this. We also have a number of advisors in the room. And there's Mary. So Mary, I was just saying thank you to you for helping to put this together. So there you are. You're standing up. You're recognized. We have a number of advisors in the room. If I could get you to stand up. If you were on this list of Henry and Dave Collings, Brian Cox, Kevin May, Don Shepard, Doug Henderson. I know Craig is not here. Steve Marek, Mark McDonald, or Chris Herbert. If you're here, if you could please stand up and just wave to the crowd. These folks are, thank you. These folks are resources for anybody in the room. We have made a commitment today to make sure that there are a number of folks with deep expertise in different areas of the industry available as advisors to attendees. So if you have questions about cloud or how it fits into your business strategy, there are folks here who are looking to help with that. We also have from the government as advisors on how to work with the government and its programs to support Ontario businesses. Rob Schock, Jose Costa, who I know is here because I just met him, Roni Pawar, Vern Tao, and Amy Britton. If you're here, could you please stand up and wave? Oh, hiding in the back of the room, are we? You guys could mix in a little bit, mix and mingle. That'd be terrific. And then also we have a number of presenters who will be coming in and out of the room during the day who we've drawn from the Toronto Cloud Business Coalition, TCBC, to help us with the presentations, including Matt Ambrose and Alex Sirota, who are right here in the front. Matt Gankars is really here in the front. Vinu, if you could just wave, there you are, way back there. Brian won't be here today. He's got a family health issue. And some folks who are on later. Arturo, if you could wave as well. Thank you. Thank you very much for helping us with the day. Today's agenda, we'll start with a welcome from Michael and from Joanne. His name somehow got left out of there, but honestly, we know you're here and your name will appear at some point. And then we're going to get into a series of sessions that are designed around small group panels. We've left lots of time for Q&A in each of the panels, so if you have questions, Victor, you said you brought a bunch, so we should be good. We're going to start by talking about planning for the cloud and aligning cloud with key executive and business objectives. And Alex and Matt Ambrose and maybe Ian, so maybe not. And then we're going to ask you to work in small groups. We'll pass out papers, which I think is probably what Dave's holding there, with case studies that will break you into groups to address, to help us to identify, using the input from the panel, the why and why you would put cloud at the center of your business strategy. Then keys in selecting and identifying and committing to cloud platforms, where Matt will be joined by Paula Doherty of Longview and Andre Van Ziel of Cologix. We'll have a lunch after that, which hopefully will arrive in a more timely fashion than the coffee. And then in the afternoon, we're going to have a kind of round table of speakers where different individuals will represent different applications and why they should be at the core of your cloud strategy. So productivity apps, why should productivity apps be the core of moving from cloud as a point solution to cloud as a strategic platform, collaboration, security and data protection, and finally cloud application integration and management, which Bick will say, no matter what other path you go down, all roads lead to us. And then we will move on to governance, risk, compliance, and cloud security, which is complicated enough so that we have 4 different panelists talking to that, a couple from the GRC perspective, a couple from the security technology perspective. And we'll wrap with a number of points of view on cloud and the IT business future, how to use cloud to enhance competitiveness through the end of the decade and beyond. And we will close at that point with small group exercises, asking you to go back to the case study and tell us how you would deploy cloud within the context of your case business, given what it is that we've covered during the day. And we'll close with the reception. It's an interesting reception. It includes the folks from this event. It includes the folks from the VIPs, speakers, and exhibitors from the DCD event that happens tomorrow. And it includes a string trio, which is terrific. So, between the drinks and the music and the company, it'll be well worth sticking around for. I realize it's late in the day and a cold and dark day, but if you can stick around, that would be terrific. So that was all I really wanted to cover off as an introduction here. There are a few rules that I'd like you to remember. The first is to connect. There are resources all over this room. We've gone out of our way to recruit people who know things about different aspects of technology infrastructure and technology strategy and how to apply that infrastructure and strategy to business success. So please, if you get, one thing out of today, please make it your ability to connect to people who can answer specific questions, connect you with technologies or advice or what have you. Do ask questions. One of the things that Michael and I discussed when we were setting up this event was that to have a truly unbiased event, and I think Leon actually helped to insist on this, to have a truly unbiased event, we need a learning-focused and outcome-focused agenda. We've put that together, and we'll count on you to ask questions to help attach that to the challenges you see in your own business. And then lastly, follow insight with action. And some of the advice we got when we dug into why SMB Cloud Summits are or are not successful in other places, all in the US to this point. One of the things we learned was a big problem is that what attendees get back is a copy of the slides that were used in the event. And the slides are meant to increase awareness of issues that may be important to you. What we've set up instead of just distributing slides at the end of the event is a library that you can use to tap into best practice documents that we've created with the TCBC and with our other best practice groups and other reports that we've gathered both from inside AAS and from other sources. So we expect that will be of real value to you as you try to convert insight to action, and we urge you to go ahead, get your password, which you will get at the end of the day, plus drink tickets in exchange for your evaluation forms, and to use that as a basis for further action. So with that, I'd like to turn the podium over to Michael and Joanne for some welcome remarks.
Great, thank you, Michael. Just gonna do this. Can everyone hear me? Okay. So thank you and welcome. I want to kick things off by telling you how excited I am to be here this morning. It's a really great opportunity for us to learn from you and also to share with you how we can partner together to make Ontario, Canada, a leader in cloud computing. I recently heard a statistic that I don't know if I like, so I don't know if I want to believe it, but something like 80% of US companies have adopted cloud computing, while Canada is sitting at only 50%. So I know we can do better, and it's possible to be better. And this is why we're engaging in forums like today to try and move the needle on tech adoption in Ontario. So just to take a step back, at the Ontario Investment Office, or as we call it, the OIO, we are driving a very clear mission, which is threefold. So the first is to support business retention and expansion. The second is to scale and grow Ontario companies. And the third is to attract foreign direct investment, which brings me to why I'm here today. We want to engage directly with Ontario's small and medium businesses, and this is a key priority for the Ontario Investment Office. So, for example, our field services group of the OIO is focused on providing services directly to small and medium businesses. And the good thing about this team is that we're not promoting any particular solution. And as a result, I think we can provide an unbiased viewpoint, which helps establish relationships with senior management at small and medium businesses. So several of our senior business advisors are here today, and I also see some other people from the Ministry of Economic and Growth. So I won't ask them to stand up today because we've already done that, but I encourage you to try and connect with someone. I think we have a Ontario table outside somewhere, so I would ask our folks to try and hang out near there so they can introduce themselves and meet you and hopefully provide some support. So technology adoption by small and medium businesses in Ontario is a key priority for the OIO. In particular, we have the Transformative Technology Adoption Unit within the Ontario Investment Office, whose mandate is specifically focused on trying to encourage this. This group has been working really closely with Insight AAS over the past several months to make this event happen. And it's because of this focus on technology adoption that the OIO has been a strong supporter and a founding sponsor of this event. So I'm going to turn it over to Michael Shin in a few moments to take you through our mandate and how it can support each of you. And I want to leave you with just a notion about the OIO, about myself and our entire team. And the key is that we're here to help you with your growth. That's really why we exist, and that's why we want to be here today, is how can we help you with your growth plans as businesses? We're also doing things differently in the government, which is always good, and we're doing it on purpose. We're doing it differently. So my personal approach is to focus on a couple key drivers for our work. The first one is a bias for action. The second is to be customer focused, and the third is to really focus on being problem solvers. So we look forward to continuing the conversation with you to talk about how we can help you adopt technology and make better strategic use of cloud computing to enhance your competitiveness and drive growth. I know this event is fully subscribed, which is great. Congratulations. And I'm pleased that we have such a strong display of both businesses interested in cloud computing, but also advisors and suppliers to help build momentum in this space. So thank you again, welcome, and enjoy your day.
Thanks, Joanne. Good morning. Great to see all of you today, especially on such a freezing cold morning like today. There does seem to be a thirst for this type of event, one that's focused on cloud computing adoption directly for SMBs. In fact, as far as we know, we don't think there's been this type of event held in Ontario to our knowledge. I know it's hard to book off a whole day, especially for the senior management at small and medium-sized businesses, so we appreciate you taking the time. It's difficult to take the time out from fighting fires and handling the daily operational tasks. And this type of event is thinking about working on your business and not in your business. And it's those types of companies and management teams that can make progress towards a longer-term goal. So congratulations on dedicating your time and being here today at the Cloud Summit. Within the OIO, as Joanne mentioned, our group, the Transformative Technology Adoption Unit, focuses on technology adoption for Ontario SMEs. The rationale for this is pretty simple. It's because that will help our businesses succeed, particularly against the stiff competition that you'll face from the US and beyond. For our group, when we thought about what areas we should focus on, one natural candidate was cloud adoption for a number of reasons. The successful adoption and use of cloud computing will make your businesses more agile, reduce the need for upfront capital expenditures, and also provide a good platform on which you can layer other technologies like data analytics, IoT, and eventually artificial intelligence. So in the earlier days of cloud, customization options were fairly limited, which restricted the number of areas that you could use cloud for. However, with continually advancing cloud technology, a number of things can be addressed by cloud technologies, including a lot more strategic things than in the past. So even if you have adopted cloud, and I'm sure a number of you have here in this room already, there's probably a chance that you can make better strategic use of cloud. And that's another one of the key objectives for today. As I mentioned, in addition to cloud, our group also focuses on analytics, IoT, and AI. And in meeting with Inside AAS, learning that those are three of the areas that they also focus in was quite intriguing to us. And later on, when we learned further that they've got a great unbiased approach towards technology advice, they have a really good grassroots approach to working with SMBs and helping them adopt technologies. And finally, the expertise of their senior management team. I'd probably say that Michael O'Neill right here is the leading expert in helping Ontario companies, SMBs, adopt technologies, and particularly cloud, IoT, and analytics. For those of you who don't already know him, that is. So these factors all convinced us that working with Inside AAS was a good thing to do in helping to encourage adoption of cloud technology. My hope is that this event ends up being an important one for you, but still just an early step along the path of technology adoption. As Michael mentioned, following this event, we're hoping that you stay engaged, take advantage of the online library and other activities. Ultimately, for our group, it's about technology adoption. You know, it's great to get you guys educated, but we want to actually see some results ultimately. And as you go on that journey of adopting technologies, please keep in touch with us. We do want to hear about your success stories, even the small ones. In fact, what we're thinking of doing, and I discussed this in a preliminary fashion with Michael, is that if you have some success stories, let us know, and we'll think about incorporating some of them into a collection of case studies that we can market more widely within Ontario. So, you know, good marketing for your businesses, and hopefully it'll inspire other small and medium-sized businesses to adopt technology. So I hope you learn a lot today, and more importantly, start to take some concrete action towards adopting cloud technologies. Thank you very much, and I'll turn it back over to Michael.
Thank you, Michael. That was great. All right. Thank you. That was terrific. I really appreciate your kind words, and you're getting this moving. Come on up. You know what? I know the seats in back are filling up, but if you come on up, that would be even better. So we're going to start with the SMB planning for the cloud session. You know, if I get our panelists to go ahead and grab a seat up there. We don't need jackets for this. This is a roll up your sleeve session. So if you want to just, Doug, I mean, you don't even look comfortable in that jacket. You should be, you know, kind of shirt sleeving it there. I'm just going to spend like 4 or 5 minutes setting up this topic, and then we'll get right on to the panel discussion. First off, and Matt, I think this graphic owes quite a lot to you and to AJ in terms of our work. Michael mentioned that we manage best practice groups as part of the Toronto Cloud Business Coalition. This is one of the key diagrams that came out of our first wave of work in the Business Models, Metrics, and Imperatives group that focused on how to get senior management aligned with cloud, or more importantly, how to get cloud aligned with senior management. And the diagram really kind of works, you know, outside in and inside out. Around the outside, you have the issues that senior management actually cares about. In the center, you have the executives themselves. And in between, you have the three things that the executives are going to use, the three filters that executives are going to use to look at cloud. They're going to look at models, operating models, based on cloud that help them to achieve one or more of these objectives. They're going to look at metrics, all of which are dollar denominated, that help them to understand what the value of cloud is to their business. And they're going to look, thirdly, at imperatives that are not dollar denominated but still important. Things like productivity and corporate reputation, things that are important to the business but are not actually part of the financial equation. And the idea is that to be successful in aligning cloud with senior management, you need to hit those issues on the outside through these lenses on the inside. In our SMB cloud strategy group, which I know Alex is a big part of, we talk quite a lot about key factors in planning cloud strategy, and I'm not going to hit that too heavily because we're going to ask about that with the panel. But the notion is that at some point, if you're an SMB, you need to find a balance point that includes cost to your business, that includes the resources that you have available within your business, but more often through contractors, the requirements that were shown on the outside of the previous graph, some ability to assemble consistency across systems, which is a lot of what I think Michael was pointing to when he said even firms that have adopted cloud could get quite a lot more out of it by integrating these systems. And finally, the ability to manage and migrate from system to system, even within a workload. Lastly, and Alex, I'm pretty sure this does source back to you, sources of SMB cloud benefit, the ability to exert control over an uncertain business environment, which is a direct quote, the ability to manage technology as a business asset and to expand the scope of skills available to your organization, potentially through employees, quite likely through connections in the gig economy. And then finally, we have a checklist, which you will find. I'm not going to talk to this, but if you go to the library and you download the resources in the SMB Cloud Planning document, you'll see a checklist that you can use to try to align your cloud adoption and advancement strategies through, thank you, through
just for the recording.
Sorry, I thought that was makeup. I'm disappointed. Okay, then, so with that, can we bring our panelists to the front of the room? I haven't actually seen Ian here today, but if not, we'll just have more time to spend with Matt and Alex. Do you guys want to just introduce yourselves briefly? Alex, you seem to have the mic, so you go ahead and start.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Sirota. I'm the director of New Path Consulting, a small Ontario-based, born and raised in Ontario, small business that I started in November of 2014 with the primary objective of introducing and convincing small business owners and their staff that the cloud will radically transform the way they do business. I see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd that I was hoping to be here and they actually are here, so that's really great to see. And I've been really proud to be also a contributing advisor to this work, and also our company built the platform for InsightAsAService.com, and we're really proud of that work that we've done as well, and working with Michael and Mary and all that work over the last few years. So,
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Alex. Good morning, everyone. Matt Ambrose. I'm with PwC. I lead our technology consulting practice focused on mid-market. I'm very passionate about this space, and I was just thinking about Joanne's comment around 50% cloud adoption, and I'm not sure if you said Canada or Ontario, but anyways, one thing that resonated with me or came to mind is we are a nation of mid-market companies, SMB, and primarily, and we're also very risk adverse. And when you think about cloud adoption in general, as Canadians, we've hesitated. And if you think back to the global financial crisis in 2008, that worked very well for the banking industry. But I'm here to tell you, and hopefully we will all reinforce for you today that cloud's here to stay. It's not an option. It's now a requirement. If you're not leveraging technology, and incorporating it into your business, I'll argue that you might not be around in the next 3 to 5 years. So it's here to stay, and we'll talk about a number of those things today. So thanks for being here.
Thanks. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Stuart, if I can ask you to click on that first link. We brought this up first, and I've actually spent quite a lot of time in the class that I teach at University of Toronto School of Continuing Studies in talks like this and in other contexts about how important this slide is, how important it is to understand that executives don't wake up in the morning saying, damn, I need some cloud. They wake up in the morning saying, I have to mitigate risk. I have to keep pace with competition. I have to manage shadow IT. What, in your opinion, and I'm going to view that through the lens of, does this make economic sense to my business? Can I incorporate it in how my business acts and hopefully enhance the way my business acts? Can I address issues like productivity and corporate reputation that are difficult to quantify, but are please do feel free to take pictures of the slides. Like, we're there, and do go to the library and download the report that talks about this in more detail. It'll be great. How do you advise, in your businesses, you both work with, smaller and mid-market, larger, smaller firms. How do you advise your customers to work through this process of identifying business imperatives and aligning them to cloud through these lenses? Matt, you get the microphone. Why don't you go ahead and start?
Usually you have me wrap up.
Consultant always gets the last word. That's true.
Ian, we got a warm spot for you right here.
Yeah.
Ian, thank you. So actually, can we go back? Just hit that back button on the bottom right there. We're privileged to also be joined by Ian Ray, who's made it in from Montreal. Thank you, Ian. It's an Ontario event, but you're welcome.
Barely made it
out. We had the cold weather just in your honor. Ian is CEO of CloudOps and Cloud.ca, and is candidly one of the kind of leaders in Canadian cloud. I notice you guys are kind of squished together. If I move this chair out, will you have a little bit more room there? Okay, Matt, you still get to go first, but.
So the question was, how do we convince people to go to the cloud?
Where should SMBs focus as they look to align their cloud strategies with the business realities? And Stuart, if we can get just a second click right there, that'd be terrific. Perfect. Thanks.
I think the key starting point is to understand what's the problem you're trying to solve. When I'm dealing with SMBs, we tend to look at a maturity model and where organizations sit in that maturity model, and that determines their entry point and opportunities for cloud. Organizations that are largely on-prem, legacy applications, legacy hardware, could be end of life, they tend to sit on that lower end of the maturity model, and that drives us down a certain path for cloud. Then you have the other extreme of that is organizations that have already started to, they've virtualized everything, they've revamped their processes, they've started to incorporate some digital processes, and they've already started to adopt some cloud applications, and they're just looking to further enhance that. So in a classic consulting in our world it depends. That's always our chambered reaction or response. But if we focus on what I would say is for a lot of SMBs across the nation, they tend to be in the early stages or the lower end of that maturity model. And for us, they'll tell us we don't know what to do. We don't know where to start. Cloud, we've heard about cloud. Everyone used to tell us it wasn't secure. How do we manage it? How do we deal with it? What to cloud or not to cloud? That's the key question. And so we go in and we start with an understanding of what their business is and what problems they're trying to solve. Is it productivity? Is it part of the incorporating part of their supply chain? Are they trying to improve the customer experience? There's a number of things that come to mind. And so we ultimately create a roadmap. So what are the problems you're trying to solve? What are the opportunities that are available? Let's prioritize those opportunities, and let's come up with a roadmap and figure out how we should approach this, because there is no big red easy button, unfortunately, for it to happen overnight.
Although we do have red stickers for our advisors. So if you have one, go ahead to Steve. He'll put a sticker on your badge, and then you too can be an easy button for the folks around. Thanks, Matt. Do you want to pass the microphone either way? There we go.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, Ian, you're ready. Just kind of, you were born
that's
ready.
That's right. I got my coffee. I'm good to go. Yeah, I was just thinking, it's not just consultants who say it depends. I find my lawyer all the time says it depends. It's amazing. That possibly. So, just for context, I mean, I've been doing cloud computing for over 10 years now. So about 2006 got started. What is really exciting now about being in Canadian cloud computing is the clouds are finally coming to Canada, and I think this is a huge opportunity. And so when I think of like a strategy for a Canadian sort of mid-market business, what's changed very recently is we've got options, and this is amazing, and we've got multiple options. And I think the way we usually sort of encourage our customers to look at it is start with understanding what your undifferentiated IT needs are versus your differentiated. And I think the number of folks I've met who believe that either all of their IT needs are differentiated and they need to build everything because they're special is amazing. And but what's also amazing is the opposite end of the spectrum is also true. We've got lots of companies who are like, actually, our IT isn't particularly interesting. We just do the same stuff that every other company does. And I think both of those answers are generally wrong. And so encouraging folks to really be opinionated as to, depending on what business model you're in, exactly where you should be focusing on building specialized systems that are going to help you win in your market. And most, what's the saying? Most every company is a software company, just most don't know it yet. So, and I think that's generally true, maybe not universally true. So understanding what your differentiated aspects of your business are, and be maybe more thoughtful and careful about that, and then identify your undifferentiated needs, and I would say at this point sort of rapidly figure out how you get out of the business of building your own IT, especially in a world where we're moving so quickly. It would take a certain kind of arrogance to be able to say you know exactly what your IT needs are going to be in 12 months, because I think very few people do.
Thanks.
Well, I look through this kind of a very complex question through the lens of a very, very small business. So let's say a business of less than 10 employees, in most cases less than $1 million in revenue, because those are the customers that I work with. And I'm surprised to the answer to a question that I pose almost to every organization, or even any staff people that I work with, when I pose the following question. It's a question that I read about in the Wall Street Journal probably about 20 years ago when I was starting to research small businesses and kind of how they focus on what they should do first and what they should focus on, what their priorities are. And the question, I'd like to actually kind of experiment with this group here. The question is pretty simple. It's a multiple choice question, and this is what I asked them. I said, what is the most important thing to you as a small business owner? And you have 4 options, and I need you to tell me why as well. Why do you answer this way? Time, money, customer, or an idea, or your idea. And so how many people in this room say that the most important thing to a small business owner is time? Show of hands. How about money?
How many hands do I get?
Money is a little bit more. How about their idea, their mousetrap? How about, okay, how many people say customer? Yeah, so it's interesting because did anybody answer more than one? Yeah. But I actually asked them to really make a value judgment though between those four, because they're all important, really. But what's the most important? Like, what is the most critical thing? And it's about reflective. The audience here reflects kind of what I see. About 50% people, give or take, answer customer, and another 30-40% answer the idea, and then time and money are kind of the laggards in there. And if anybody ever answers anything other than customer for me, it's a red flag, actually. So I bring on a customer that tells me that time is their most important thing for them as a business owner. I know that they're probably not very good at managing time. And if they say money, they probably don't have any. That's because that's what's on their mind. When a customer says, when a potential customer or an existing customer says the customer is the most important thing to me, getting new customers, keeping customers, serving them, I know that their mind, even if they're not a huge company yet, or if they may never be, but at least they're probably going to do better than average, because they figure that the customer is the most important. And this is where I see when those companies answer customer, the cloud is an incredible way to serve customers. It's a very good fit for customer-centric organizations, because you can, execute ideation to execution for small businesses is really important. And so if an owner of a small business thinks about that, they can really accomplish a lot with cloud. They probably don't have shadow IT, really small businesses.
But all three of those top categories that apply too, right?
Yeah. So that's a question that I ask, and we've been very successful with getting people to think about by sort of, so if they say idea, I say, why is the idea most important? There's a lot of bad ideas that execute very well, and they execute usually using, online and the cloud and marketing very effectively. They're maybe not the greatest ideas, but they actually execute well. So that kind of realization really helps.
Thanks. Matt, you were looking at me. Did you have a second thing you wanted to include off that, or we ready to move on to the next thing? You're debating.
I am debating.
Hey, Stuart, if you want to move us back to the question slide while Matt elaborates on this, and that'd be good.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about the SMB space, and I like what Alex was saying, but I find that within SMB, a lot of organizations just don't, they're racing around. They're running around like a chicken with their head cut off. They're trying to keep up, they're trying to get new customers. They're trying to make sure that they've got cash flow. They're trying to make payroll. I tend to ask people, and the owners and leaders of the organizations we deal with, like, is IT a cost center, or is it a business partner, strategic enabler, et cetera? And they tend to, I get the deer in the headlights look quite often, because a lot of mid-market companies feel that IT is just a cost center. And we need to change how IT is viewed within small businesses, small, medium businesses, because it is a business partner. To Ian's point, you say every company is a software company. I say every company is a technology company. At the end of the day, if you are not leveraging technology as a competitive advantage, you will not exist, because the old processes, we all refer to the hockey stick effect. We used to be able to create a business model, go to market, pretty local economies, maybe national, maybe bleed into the US a little bit, et cetera. And you had time. You didn't have a lot of competitive threats, where now we are a global economy and everything's online. So if you think about creating whatever your widget or service is, it's online. And people, if you price something at $1,000, guaranteed somebody's got it for $9.90 online. Okay. Whatever it happens to be, there's always someone who's going to undercut you. And we can all go back to MBA school and talk about price advantage, et cetera. And Amazon's a great example, whatever the case may be. But you have to leverage technology, and it's an integral part of your business. It's going to give you time to market or time to value. It's going to improve your processes. It's going to hopefully reduce some of the gray hair that we've incurred over the years. It will be a competitive advantage, or it will be your demise.
Thanks very much. Ian, you want to get a
I just
so
totally.
just as a brief pause, just, I mean, Matt obviously has deep chops in this area. It was actually Alex's idea to do this event, so thank you, Alex. And Ian was, I think, the first guy when did you start saying, Amazon, you should come to Canada? How long ago was that?
I think I talked to them about that about 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, so
But I mean, there's sort of an obvious advantage to being up here. It's a little cooler. We got lots of renewable energy, at least in Quebec. I'm not really sure what the deal is in Ontario right now, but but I just wanted to sort of put an emphasis on that last point. Is that I realize SMB could range from the sort of 10 people small company up to maybe hundreds of employees, and so there's a lot of there's an enormous spectrum of needs there. But I think regardless of what size of company you are, you still need to have a strategy vis-a-vis your relationship with technology. And if you don't, you are I think putting yourself at great risk, which I want to emphasize that last point. And then finally, I would say even if you're really small, it doesn't mean that you you don't have an IT need that may require special consideration, and that maybe you would decide to not put it somewhere for a strategic reason. And I just want to give you a couple of examples. I think when Netflix started its 8-year migration to Amazon Web Services, do you think they realized that Amazon was going to be possibly their biggest competitor? Right? So just the notion of like outsourcing undifferentiated heavy lifting doesn't mean you aren't going to inadvertently put yourself in an extremely awkward position where you rely 100% on your biggest competitor for survival. And those examples abound. And I think, Walmart just a couple of months ago was like, if you're a supplier to us, you cannot be running the supply chain on Amazon's web services. So So thinking about the technology, I think there is a strategic element to this that is not simply, oh, I'm getting a server or I'm getting a service that's cost effective. I would encourage any business to think about where they're getting it from is a strategic advantage or disadvantage as well.
Thanks. And actually, the whole point of this session is to help folks in the room understand, strategy is important, cloud is important to that strategy. And on that, Stuart, if we could get you to click on the sources of SMB cloud benefits there. This kind of shows why and how cloud is important as a centerpiece of strategy to SMBs. Matt, you don't want to go first again. So, and Alex, this is pretty much a slide that you helped us to define. So why don't you talk about, pick one of these areas here, the technology as a business asset, the scope of skills, the control over your business environment, and explain to us why and how that becomes a benefit of cloud to the SMBs that you work with or the SMB community generally.
Well, sure, I'll do my best. I'll start with exert control over an uncertain business environment. Pretty much every single customer that approaches me has a very particular business challenge that they have faced. In most cases, it has to do with either no technology whatsoever, and I'll describe a story with a small law firm in California that really is doing things in the wrong way, and they need to exert control, and I'll describe that. And then other organizations that have technology, but it's just legacy, and they've been they haven't been strategic about selecting what they're doing with that technology, and then they're facing a cliff basically. So that means usually a piece of software or several pieces of software that are long in the tooth, they're not supported anymore, and they need to shift to something else, and so they have to face a build versus buy decision. So cloud is really good at basically giving you multiple paths that you can go through to identify how you can pick and choose essentially from thousands of products off the shelf, assemble them together, and actually accomplish what you probably have never been able to do before. Whereas before you may have said, we're not going to do it, it's too expensive, or you said, it's going to be too custom, or you're going to say, oh, we need to go and it's specific to what we need, so we need to build a custom solution. The reality is that the state of the art now is such that you don't really have to do that. So I'm just gonna sort of focus on that one. So the law firm, a small law firm, think about what they do. They basically have templates, Microsoft Word templates, Excel templates, that they have to fill out over and over again to satisfy their customers in a good way. And this law firm that approached me said that we were spending, valuable time filling out templates. And their customers know that they get charged $300-400 an hour, probably for the first 50% of the engagement, and filling out a bunch of templates, and they have to go review. So they thought, why are we filling out templates and really essentially competing against other companies? And this company's in California, so they have like the intellectual property law firm. So they have competitors that basically can onboard a client with a set of customized solutions much quicker, potentially even directly off their website. So they started looking at what is the options out there. Probably 10 years ago, I could have said to them, well, you're going to need to have a custom workflow solution, and you need to. And today I said to them, well, here's this product called WebMerge, and here's another product called FormStack, and you can create this in about 5 to 10 hours. And it was just kind of like an eye opener for them. For me, it was kind of like, yeah, this is a problem that's been solved many times by other companies. But for them, it was like a huge eye-opener. They said, we're now going to be able to create a lot more value a lot faster for our customer. And that's only really possible with the cloud, because these solutions are, pay-as-you-go, no upfront investment, very easily configurable, extremely powerful, and customizable for this kind of client. So that's just one example. There's lots of other ones like that.
You want to take technology as a business asset or scope of skills?
I guess I'll flip a coin, expand the scope of skills.
Okay.
One thought is, when you're talking about, if we go back to years ago, decades ago actually, and how we used to address technology concerns, we hired an IT person, maybe a few IT people. They looked at, there was a box in the closet, or maybe a couple of boxes, some communications equipment, etc. And that small team managed everything. Could have been a Windows server, for some of you that remember Novell, maybe it was a Unix, whatever the case may be. And the technology people just made sure it worked, and if it didn't work, as business users, we would complain. And they would go down every now and then, or there'd be upgrades and there'd be challenges. But it was a small team that you could leverage, because they would handle the servers themselves. They would look after whether it was an Exchange server for email. If you think about our business processes, they were pretty basic. We weren't really, we were leveraging technology, and it was a huge benefit, but not at the rate of pace that we experience today. So thinking about expanding the scope of skills, frankly, you cannot staff enough people cost effectively to manage all of the complexities that that exist in our environments today. Whether it's managing the servers, looking after email, talk about cybersecurity. I can talk all day. I could talk all week about cybersecurity. The threat landscape, the opportunities. We live in a complex world, and those jack of all trades, they don't really exist anymore, and it's not cost effective to try and internally staff those. So if you think about the cloud, when I'm talking to organizations and they're looking at upgrading their on-premise equipment, or I ask them, if you look at the models of today, you will be hard-pressed to buy an actual server in 5 years' time. You'll have to buy a container of 2,000 servers, because that's how they're going to sell them. That's how they're going to ship them from China. So there'll be an aftermarket. Somebody will buy them, break them down, and you can still buy them, sure. But the model's moving to cloud. Everybody's moving there. If you think about the whole time to value skills, why would I hire, as a small organization, if you take cybersecurity, for example, why would I hire somebody with a CISA designation that, frankly, I'm going to have to pay them 6 figures for an SMB? I can't afford to do that. That's not practical for my business. But cyber is a very real threat, and every day. I mean, look at just as of late, the SEC, Equifax, Deloitte, we all heard about those examples. Those are very real and very disruptive to businesses. And very high profile with a lot larger IT folks or departments than probably everyone in this room. So when you think about other like capacity, when you leverage the cloud, if you're looking at computing cycles, scale up, scale down. You're looking for expertise for software development, scale up, scale down. Use it as you need. I think it really, when you're looking at the cloud, you want to create a strategy that involves an ecosystem, and you pull in the right expertise. You can still have that small core focus. Somebody needs to be responsible. But one thing that we're moving organizations towards is it's less about we used to say the speeds and feeds and the people that can actually bang on the keyboard to get things done. And we're moving IT roles and responsibilities more towards vendor management. So they become that internal, they become the project manager and the vendor manager. And they become much more engaged in the business. It's no longer, if you think about IT and business, there used to be a big divide. And nowadays, technology people, there's a lot more technology leaders, CIOs, et cetera, that are coming out with MBAs, for example, because they have to understand the business. 20 years ago, they didn't really need to know the business. They just needed to keep that server on. Now, they need to know the business.
Thanks, Matt. And Ian, maybe you could talk to managing technology as a business asset. If you're in an SMB, how does that translate into being a benefit to the SMB's business, the management of technology as a business asset?
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull myself out of the mid-90s where I was that guy who was running all of the IT and like building serial console cables and running Novell NetWare and all that stuff. And just to maybe segue from what you were saying, I do see exactly what you're saying, that transition of, look, you know, if you're a small business, if you have an IT team, they shouldn't be focused on doing what I was doing in the mid-90s, but what they could be doing is managing that sort of portfolio menu of services that you're going and getting from all the different sort of specialized, differentiated services that are available. I mean, it's like a buffet out there. You gotta be a little careful because it doesn't take long and suddenly your small business is using like 40 different cloud services, half of which you're not even aware are being used. So, but that's where a huge business value is, right? To start actually getting on top of why are we using all these services and how are we selecting these services and how are we managing them? And so to sort of segue to the managing the technology as a business asset, I mean, to me, that is really connected back to that kind of, first of all, identification of what is your differentiated versus undifferentiated. I'm always surprised at how many businesses aren't like super, like they kind of understand it, but it's not an area where they've really challenged themselves to think about, okay, where are the areas we need to invest because we're going to get competitive advantage, what are the things that we need to do that everybody else is going to do, like have like a support desk, maybe use Zendesk. Well, at the end of the day, Zendesk is probably not going to be your competitive advantage. Everybody uses it. It's accessible to the whole market. But it may be that what's really strategic for you is you do some specific kind of support where you can build a plugin for Zendesk, which is your own IP. And it doesn't, maybe take a lot of, you can hire some developers, you can, it might cost you're outsourcing it might cost a couple of months to develop it, but then it's your specialized IP that plugs into Zendesk and allows your support experience to be differentiated. And that's an area where, like, you don't have to, and it's amazing how many companies are like, oh, well, we really want this thing, so we're going to build our own Zendesk. It's like the amount of effort and cost in building your own Zendesk is just massive, when really all you could be doing is focusing on that little plugin. And so when I think of sort of managing sort of your IT assets, again, super important to understand sort of what are those really key differentiated pieces you need to build, and then from a strategy perspective, make an eyes wide open decision about how you're going to go and get that. And I'd usually challenge businesses that they can probably do it cheaper, faster than they really think. And you have to be a little careful because sometimes someone's going to come in and pitch you on, well, you're a really special business, and we would really like to build your next generation super special cloud support application, but keeping in mind, like, they're going to make a lot of money rebuilding Zendesk. So, beware as you're managing your portfolio. I think there's huge opportunities. There's that whole buffet of more services than I think anybody in this room, if we spent all of our time researching them, we wouldn't come across all of them. It's an amazing, amazing smorgasbord. But we are, I think what I'd again encourage is less sort of window shopping and more sort of start with your strategy and knowing yourself, and then you can go out and see what's available. And that's really kind of our approach.
That makes a lot of sense. And with that, I think, Leon, you're ready to get us started. So why don't you, we'll go ahead and ask the folks, any of you guys who have a question for these folks on strategy or working with executive expectations. Leon, can you get us started?
I can shout.
Hey,
There you go. Here you go. Okay. So, Ian, you mentioned the fact that companies or business owners should figure out differentiated versus undifferentiated aspects of their businesses. In the case of where they actually don't understand the capabilities or what's available in terms of cloud and the services, are you confident that the suppliers of cloud consulting will be able to kind of understand the business itself? Like an owner may say, this is what we do, this is what our value proposition is, and we think, in Alex's case, the customer is the most important thing for us. Do you feel that today's cloud consultants or suppliers get the strategic part of the business and can provide that solution?
Thanks for the question. That's a really good question. So I think they're out there, but I want to highlight some aspect of the transition of the market from traditional IT towards cloud has been this kind of deep struggle for the vendors and for integrators to adapt to a cloud model versus a traditional, I'm going to sell technology, resell technology. So most of the people in the room have probably heard of a VAR and an integrator, so value-added reseller and integrator. The market is still kind of in a very incomplete and very painful transition towards a cloud model where customers can actually just go and subscribe to something like Zendesk without the help of a reseller. And so you'll find a lot of businesses out there, and some consulting businesses are trying to position themselves as brokers, which I think is a bit of a red flag personally, because what I see is there's certain consultants who will be like, hey, we've already figured out which services you should be using, and it should be one of the ones that we resell and we can provide integration services for. So and I think those folks are important in the market, but if you're a small business, you're not sure what you need, I would say make sure you find a consultant who is not a reseller first. You may eventually decide that, oh, I need to do Zendesk, and therefore I need to find a really competent integrator who does Zendesk, and you can ask around, find out who's really good at it. Some of these folks might actually know people who are. I don't. But I think that's a really important question, because I think some companies, the root of a lot of problems in the IT world, in my opinion, and the relationship between IT and business is procurement, in my humble opinion. And the number of sort of square pegs that have been sold to companies that need a round sort of bolt or something is incredible. And I think that's the good thing about cloud is it's harder to get away with that, but there's still a lot of companies running around there trying to get away with it. So I'd say buyer beware, find a consultant who's independent and who can be a trusted advisor, as opposed to someone who's just going to push whatever technology they get rewarded for selling.
As a bit of an add-on to that, at Matt's instigation, the TCBC developed a report on defining the cloud broker model, which is available to all of you as part of the library that you'll have access to after the event. Anybody got another question? Yes, here we go.
Can I follow up on that real quick?
If you're really quick, because we're running really short on time.
Very quick. Oh, sorry. So my company is we resell solutions for cloud, and we do have a select sort of products that we prefer because we researched them and took time to do that. They're not exclusive to that. One thing I should say is that a lot of the vendors avoid having any kind of formal reseller programs altogether. So a lot of the vendors are always direct anyway. Salesforce, for the most part, is actually you just buy it off the shelf. There is a huge reseller partner program. So even the business model of these products are actually not even meant for that. But it doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't matter. A good consultant will look at the business problem and we do first, and then recommend solutions after.
It should be on.
Okay. Ian, you raised the point about the financial crisis and how, just following the traditional financial models was a good thing for us. Whereas in this case, we need to embrace cloud. So question is, what can you do to really change the mindset of which is risk averse? Can you, it's a question of enlightening SMEs about how to embrace it and customize it for their business model. So are there, from an industry association perspective, rather than going to a consultant, are there defined standards available for cloud security, the different layers, AI, data analytics, those kind of things, which makes it easier for a low-cost operation, right? For a business owner to go to the association rather than engaging a consultant to get the comparison. What are the cloud platforms available, and how do I choose the right one for me? And how do I train my folks to use cloud products rather than Microsoft or IBM or those kind of things? Thank you.
I think you said Ian, but I think you meant me. I referenced the GFC. So good question. The thing is, and this dovetails into what Ian and Alex were saying, the solution landscape is vast. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're talking about cloud providers or widgets. If you go and Google it, you are going to get a list a mile long. It goes back to my earlier comment about a global economy. How do I know who's good and who's not good? So when you say, how does a small business avoid using consultants? I would say that's a big problem. You, as an individual or a small medium business, I would say it's even more critical for you to engage a consultant. You have to find the right consultant, somebody that you can partner with. And it's not just, don't think about it as an expense. Think about it as a partnership to help you navigate the muddy waters, because there are way too many options out there, and you're not going to be able to make a decision on your own, or you are going to you're going to get into analysis paralysis, because how do you differentiate between one or another? And when I think about what Ian was saying, what vendor, when was the last time you talked to a vendor and said, here are my requirements, and they said, yeah, we don't do that? They don't. They absolutely don't. They will tell you that they can, not that they do. And so that's one of the things that consultants can help you do, whether it's someone like PwC or Alex's company. We help you navigate that and understand, first of all, help you clearly articulate what your requirements are, because I will challenge most organizations, and I tell everybody this: if I ask you what you tell me you want to change, I ask you what your requirements are, you're going to tell me exactly what you do today, because you don't know any different. And that's true for many organizations. So from a consulting perspective, we help you challenge the norm and align to what the solution landscape offers. Just one of the other things you asked about frameworks, frankly, I've got a list longer than my arm that's available. It doesn't matter if you're talking about privacy or security or ISO, whatever the case may be. There's tons of standards out there. And I would suggest that navigating that as an SMB is another set of challenges. So in the short answer is find a partner that works with you and treat it as a partnership. Don't treat your partner as a low-cost provider, because that too will bite you in the end.
We always do let the consultant have the last word.
Just real quick, one of the yeah, exactly. So one other thing that you can also look for is, because your company will be using these solutions and configuring them and continuing to support them, really, with most likely the end vendor that's the consultant potentially recommends. Look for, if you do go look for a consultant, look for one that will actually help you train up your staff and learn to get the value out of the products that you're going to be using before the consulting agreement is done. Or if you're looking for a direct vendor relationship, look for one where they have a strong training component, as opposed to just having like a help desk, actual ongoing training.
Sorry, I have to have the last word. I'm sorry. So, this is an on-standing joke with Michael and I. Anyways, sorry, just one more thought. You have to identify the partner, the right partner for you. But just in follow-up with what Alex was saying, that I would also push the needle on your business model and say, is having an internal IT function the right thing for you and your organization? Because there are a lot of options out there, and it goes back to my earlier comment that we are pushing a lot of organizations towards having that internal IT person or people focused on the business needs and project management and vendor management. And then you can outsource IT, because I use the example of cybersecurity. You're not going to hire an FTE to be able to handle that. As far as making sure that the lights are on at your data center or on your servers or your cloud environment, why would you pay somebody to look at lights? Outsource that. It's a lot cheaper. It can be a lot cheaper. I mean, you know, we've said this on a number of occasions. Not all workloads are right for the cloud. You still have to do your due diligence, right? So.
Thanks. The consultant always gets the last word. And please join me in thanking heartily these guys. Just for what it's worth, I'm actually working on a white paper now on that point about outsourced suppliers. There's a lot of use of as-a-service type agreements. I think one of the trends we're going to see in the next couple of years, typically as-a-service agreements are for a static level of service. You pay me an amount of money, I secure your stuff. You pay me an amount of money, I give you a server. We're going to find as-a-service agreements that say, if I keep paying you every month, you have to give me incrementally more every month, not just the same thing on a month-by-month basis. Be interesting to see how that plays out. But that's not where we're at now. Now it is time for you guys to work together. So if you're in the back of the room, you probably have sheets that identify a purple case. Is that true? It says purple case, Mo Better Togs. If you're right around here, you have a blue case. You've been given a sheet that says blue case for, what is the blue case? True North Muffler Bearings, a manufacturer in Ontario. Over here we have the yellow case, do we? And you guys are Granite Shores, are you? Granite Shores Diversified Financial. We have the red case over there, the Ministry of Weather. And we have the green case over here. All that's left is Alvar Healthcare, 2.5 hours outside the metropolis of Sudbury. What I'd like you to do is to gather together, so turn chairs around as you must, or just reseat yourselves so that you can work with your group. You've got 10 minutes. We can actually allow 15 because these guys were actually very time efficient with their remarks. Introduce yourselves to your fellow team members. Using the input from these guys, why is cloud important to our muffler bearing firm or retailer or what have you? And what benefits will we realize if we're successful? And pick a spokesperson, because we're going to ask one spokesperson from each group to explain to our esteemed panel why it is the cloud is important and what benefits you'll realize. It is 11:07. You've got till 11:20. Please get started.